Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. I'm speaking with Peggy today. She's the mom of a child with type 1 diabetes who is 9 years old. He was diagnosed in April of 2023. There's no other type 1 in the family, but they do have some bipolar. And today we're going to talk a lot about digestion issues and type 1 diabetes. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. If you're looking for community around type 1 diabetes, check out the Juicebox Podcast private Facebook group, Juicebox Podcast, type 1 diabetes. But everybody is welcome. Type 1, type 2, gestational, loved ones, it doesn't matter to me. If you're impacted by diabetes and you're looking for support, comfort, or community, check out Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook. Guys, summer's over, fall is here, and you are going to need some sweatpants, sweatshirts, new sheets, and towels. Go get them at CozyEarth.com and save 40% off of your entire order when you use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. And don't forget to take that survey at t1dexchange.org/juicebox. I'm waiting for you to get over there. Head over now. It'll only take a couple minutes. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Omnipod and the Omnipod 5. Learn more and get started today at omnipod.com/juicebox. Tickets for the 2025 Juice Cruise are limited. I'm not just saying that. They actually are limited. We have a certain window to sell them in, and then that's it. Juiceboxpodcast.com. Scroll down to the Juice Cruise banner, click on it, find a cabin that works for you, and register right now. You are absolutely limited by time on this one. I'm so sorry to say that. It sounds pushy, but it's the absolute truth. Juice Cruise 2025. I hope to see you there. We're going to get a tan, talk about diabetes, and meet a ton of great people who are living with diabetes. It's kind of going to be like floating diabetes camp, but you won't have to sleep in a log cabin. You'll get a tan. And it's not just for adults or kids. It's for everybody.
Hi, I'm Peggy, and I'm a mom of a type 1 diabetes child who is 9 years old. We live in the Midwest, and he was diagnosed last year in April. So I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Let me fish out a marker for my whiteboard. I cleaned my desk up, which was a huge mistake. My first question is, how long ago was he diagnosed?
He was diagnosed April 13th, 2023.
Okay, so...
Just about a year?
Yeah, just slightly over a year. Okay.
Yeah.
At 8 years old at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other type 1 in your family?
No. Well, I pause and say my first cousin's child. So yes, but not, first tier relatives, right? Mm-hmm.
How about other autoimmune stuff like celiac, thyroid?
Not that I'm aware of. Of course, after diagnosis, as a mom, I did all the research and asked all the questions and trying to figure out the why. And as far as I know, like not his grandmother or grandfather or, aunts and uncles or anything like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Different tier in the family line. Bipolar?
Yes.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to keep asking that question.
Okay.
I don't know what answer we're going to come up with. I assume that paleontologists in the future listening to the podcast will be like, this guy was on to something in the early 20s.
Ooh.
I guess. Who knows why?
That is not one I had thought of, but yeah. Okay.
Inflammation.
Inflammation.
That's what a lot of conversation around bipolar and inflammation, which just made me ask it one day. And then I kept asking it and people keep saying yes. So I'm confused. If we met at the Touched by Type 1 conference in Orlando, how do you live in the Midwest?
How do I live in the Midwest? Well, yeah, born and raised here. And when my son was first diagnosed, I was craving community. And while I had my cousin's child with type 1, no one else knew anything about it. I mean, I was confused. My family was confused. And in the profession that I'm in, I'm actually a counselor. And one of the things I teach my clients is community is really important, whatever your needs are. And so I was practicing what I preached. Mm-hmm. I reached out all over Facebook. I started with one tiny Facebook group that my cousin had recommended, and then got lots of recommendations, and I'm on all kinds of groups now. So, and one of the things that I did was, where can I meet people in person? Like, online is great, but where can I meet people in person? And I saw this free conference, 4 months post-diagnosis, and it was in Orlando. And I was like, let's go. Like, let's figure out who our people are, learn as much as we can. And I love the Touched One Type 1 in Orlando because there was a kids section. Mm-hmm. And this was a big transition for me as a mom, but really, he's a little 8-year-old boy who none of his friends understand what's going on. And I wanted to just build community for him. Okay. And he did go to type 1 diabetes camp the first year. I was so proud of him, but just wanted to keep growing our community. So because the conference was free, I just, obviously had to pay for airfare and hotel, but it was worth the trip. And who doesn't love Florida, right?
It is nice and warm.
Even in August. It was hot.
Did you do other things while you were there, or did you just come into the conference?
Oh, we did.
Yeah, good. Oh, that's great.
We did. Yeah, we did tons of fun stuff. We went to the beach. We drove to Cocoa Beach. We tried lots of new restaurants and went swimming a ton. And we met the most incredible people. And I was actually just texting with one of the moms this morning. She has turned into my practically daily check-in on just life stuff. And I'm so grateful I went, because she's absolutely amazing. She's my closest person I talk to all the time.
Oh, that's
and
fantastic.
She's in Arkansas.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you met somebody at that conference that you are still close with right now? More than close?
Yes, she's she's my dearest friend.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Hi, Marissa. She listens too. Yeah.
The people at Touched by Type 1, I think, will be touched by that as well. Yeah. That's really cool. So, okay. So you go there. Did you have expectations beyond community? Did you think you were going to learn something, or were you really just throwing yourself into it?
Well, you were there. So I wanted to meet you. I was excited about that. So community, meeting you, that was my biggest draw.
Okay. So you knew the podcast already?
I did know the podcast already.
I see.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Was I okay?
You were awesome. Yeah, you were hilarious. And, it's great seeing your face in person in real life, and then hearing your voice. It was really cool.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, there's a fair amount of pressure that comes with that whole, somebody meets you thing. You're like, oh, I wonder what they'll think. Or you kind of don't want to. I guess my biggest thing is actually specific to your situation. I think people travel to these. Can you imagine if you got there and you were just like, oh, this is horrible. I would feel so. I'd feel so bad about dragging you into it. You know what I mean? Even though it was free, I'd be like, I'm so sorry. But that's good to know. So you knew the podcast prior to that. So had you been managing with ideas from the podcast already? Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Omnipod. And before I tell you about Omnipod, the device, I'd like to tell you about Omnipod, the company. I approached Omnipod in 2015 and asked them to buy an ad on a podcast that I hadn't even begun to make yet. Because the podcast didn't have any listeners, all I could promise them was that I was going to try to help people living with type 1 diabetes. And that was enough for Omnipod. They bought their first ad, and I used that money to support myself while I was growing the Juicebox Podcast. You might even say that Omnipod is the firm foundation of the Juicebox Podcast. And it's actually the firm foundation of how my daughter manages her type 1 diabetes every day. Omnipod.com/juicebox. Whether you want the Omnipod 5 or the Omnipod DASH, using my link lets Omnipod know what a good decision they made in 2015 and continue to make to this day. Omnipod is easy to use, easy to fill, easy to wear. And I know that because my daughter has been wearing one every day since she was 4 years old. And she will be 20 this year. There is not enough time in an ad for me to tell you everything that I know about Omnipod, but please take a look. Omnipod.com/juicebox. I think Omnipod could be a good friend to you, just like it has been to my daughter and my family.
Yeah, yes. As much as you can 4 months in, right? I mean, there's so much information overload. But even just basic stuffs, like I'm going to share a story about my son. So at the Type 1 conference, Touched by Type 1 conference, there was a kids section and you were the speaker at the kids section. One of the questions that you had asked was, besides food, what will raise your blood sugar? And my son raises his hand, was all excited to answer the question and said, adrenaline. And your response was, well, how did you know that? And he said, well, my mom listens to Juicebox Podcast.
Oh.
So, yeah. So it was really great to learn even more. I think I went to one on like self-care and like the caregiver and hearing other parents about what they're doing. Because I was in like crisis mode, man. Still 4 months in, and I was not sleeping well. His pancreas was still kind of working. So lots of lows and just confusion about what the hell, right? Because I mean, I went out with, this information from medical people who I trust. And I am like type A, wanting to like A plus B equals perfection.
Right.
And realized very quickly that the information I was getting was not working for my child. And I needed to find a different way of doing things very, very quickly because it was making me sick.
Peggy, that quickly, in the first 4 months, the things you were being told, you'd take them home, and what were the outcomes like?
Oh my gosh. I mean, super high highs and super low lows, like scariness, where I just panicked all the time. I mean, and it was, basal was too high. So, and again, all this language that you're learning, like what is a basal? What is a bolus? I was using language like short-term, long-term, because he was MDI in the beginning. Even MDI, like what the heck is MDI? So it was a lot of information. And so a lot of huge spikes from within seconds. I remember one time calling the on-call emergency endo because he went from like 320 double arrows down to like 60 in a matter of 9 minutes. I mean, it was incredible. And again, this was in the beginning. So, I mean, it was just way too much of all the insulin.
Right.
But basal was too high in the beginning. So he was, 6, 7 lows at night.
Yeah.
And, the endo would say things like, well, once you administer the basal, there's no going back. So in the middle of the night, just treat the lows. I mean, that's like the advice I was getting. So It's like, well, shouldn't the advice be lower your basal tomorrow? Why am I waiting 3 days to lower the basal? I don't know. It's terrible advice.
It doesn't make sense.
It was terrible advice.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Especially in that storm that you're having. Like, it's like,
exactly.
You want to see, I did this, it worked. That's good advice. Now check, we do that. What's the next thing? And instead, everything seems wrong. And probably honeymooning, right?
Yes. Yeah, very much so. I mean, I know that now, but I remember even the word honeymooning and thinking, honeymooning, this is hell. Like, I thought honeymoons, I've never been married, but like, I thought honeymoon was like this bliss of like easy love. And this was like my living fucking nightmare. It was hell.
It is real. I've always said that. Like, why did they name it that? Like, why? I guess because everything's good in the honeymoon and then it gets worse afterwards. Is that the idea?
Guess.
But that's not the point though, because I do think you're right. I think people think honeymoon and they think like beach, happy, like you're like, that's like, the honeymoon. And you're like, no, this is not happy. I don't feel like I'm on a beach. This is I feel like I'm in the water and I'm getting knocked over by the waves.
Exactly. Like drowning. That's a perfect example. I felt like I was drowning with information, drowning with like nobody understanding and having to be in charge of everything, like educating the school system, educating his teacher, educating his soccer coach. Like, it was a lot.
It's a lot.
It still is a lot.
Oh, of course. but it's a lot
better.
if you're tuned in and interested and able, it's a lot. I always think about the people who were just getting by. Like no one knew, but they were like low key, not great parents, but it was working out and everything. You know what I mean? Don't put a ton of effort in. Like they were skating and it was working and the kid's easy. And then all of a sudden, ton of information, ton of responsibility, life and death. And then what? Like, what are you going to shift on a dime, and go be a different person? It's,
I know. It's a lot. It's so hard.
How did your son handle it looking back?
Well, gosh, it's hard to think about going back. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I didn't mean to make you cry. It was just a year ago. So. Oh no, it's okay. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's just, it's still only been a year, but, he had, this kind of ties into the digestive enzyme. So it's actually kind of perfect for years before diagnosis. He was having a lot of stomach issues and random vomiting and, all kinds of stuff that no one could figure out what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I did allergy testing. I thought it was like a milk allergy. Pediatrician put him on, and constipation was the other thing. Put him on Marilax and put him on Prilosec, and then had a celiac test and an upper endoscopy and all this stuff for years beforehand. And no one could figure out what was wrong. They thought they knew what was wrong, right? They said acid reflux and constipation because he doesn't drink enough water. Mm-hmm. And I just knew in my mom gut, like, this doesn't seem right, and that was, my gosh, I wish I could think back. I don't know, maybe 3 years, maybe even 4. I mean, even as an infant, he had vomiting from formula. And, looking back now, all these years thinking like, God, was there an allergy to formula? And then I don't know, who knows? You can't blame yourself, but.
Yeah, let me tell you this to make you feel better. That for years, they would tell us, Arden must have acid reflux or something because she'd be constant. By the way, Arden, if you're listening to this as an adult, I apologize. But when Arden was young, she'd have 4 or 5 days of constipation and then one horrible diarrhea release.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was him.
Mm-hmm. And then
that was him.
And it would just happen again. So when he
got his diagnosis, yes. Yeah. And there would be moments of oh gosh, finally. And then he would not eat for a little while and they'd say, well, he's not eating because he's constipated. So when he first got diagnosed, quite frankly, of course he was traumatized because he had, the blood draws and the needles and he was scared. But within 24 hours of being in the hospital, he felt so much better. He was still very sick, but he was going to the bathroom. He was you could see the color back in his face.
Mom, I have diabetes, but I just took a great shit.
I know, exactly. That was our thought. You know what I mean? I was traumatized too, but also a sense of relief. Oh my God, this is what I've been saying for years. Mm-hmm. I knew something was coming. I knew something big was going on with my kid. And now I know.
Did it get regular at that point, or was it just, no, it just was good for a minute and then went back again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So back to your original question was, how did he respond? And I think both of us were traumatized and relieved for the first.
For answers.
I don't know. Right. For answers for this reason. Right.
Right.
And then the stomach pain started again. Mm-hmm. We're home from the hospital. We're trying to get into a routine. And the stomach pain was happening and constipation was happening. And then we've got up and down blood sugars. So I'm trying to figure it all out. And so I went to the internet for answers and came upon the Juicebox Podcast and started listening to the episode that you talked about Arden and her digestive enzymes and all the regimen that you guys had found that really worked for her. And I was like, this is related to diabetes. It just clicked with me boom, I have to get this product in my hands. Right. So I immediately went online, ordered it, and it has been life-changing for my kid.
Kidding. Isn't that great? And so tell me, I almost can't remember everything that we tried, to be perfectly honest, going through it. But for context, we were up to, Arden had a scope and a doctor told her she had gastroparesis. And when we said, whoa, no, wait, her blood sugars are really well managed. And he goes, well, I don't think it's from diabetes. And I was like, well, don't use that word around people with type 1 diabetes. It's scary. You know what I mean? And he's like, well, I just mean she has slow digestion. And I was like, okay. He put her on this gastroparesis diet, which was horrifying. just not a thing you'd want to do your whole life. And she did it. Like, she's like, all right, I'll do it. And we did it for a solid month, and not one thing changed about this, like constant pain in her stomach, like couldn't go to the bathroom, like this whole thing. And I've told this story before, but I want to tell it here. I went to a local health food store because at the end of this first month with this diet, Arden looked at me one day and she said, I don't care if it hurts. I want a cheeseburger. Let's go. And I kind of used it as leverage because we had done, something fairly invasive, like having her scoped and everything. It did not bring her an answer. She was at the point where she goes, oh, doctors aren't going to help me. This is my lot. Right. And
totally.
So I said, I'll get you the cheeseburger, but we're going to stop at the health food store first. And we're going to just like try to get a digestive enzyme to go along with it. And she's like, whatever, if I get a cheeseburger, it's fine. And I went there and I talked to a lady who I love. I can't tell what her European descent is. She just sounds like a witch to me when she's talking, which is fantastic. And she's got a very great hippie vibe to her. And she talked to Arden for a while and talked to me. And she put this digestive enzyme in our hands. And she's like, start with this. And we were like, okay. Arden popped 2 of these things in the car while we were picking up the food. And she ate the cheeseburger, and she said later, like, my stomach doesn't hurt the way it usually does. But then she did not go to the bathroom. So days went by, and stomach didn't hurt when she ate, but was not eliminating. And so I went back to the witch doctor, and I said, hey, here's what's going on. And she goes, here. And she says, take these magnesium oxide. These will make you go to the bathroom. And I was like, right on. And so I was like, Arden, the lady says it's going to make, and, gave her one. And sure enough, like the funny thing is that days went by and I kept waiting for it to come to me.
I know.
And finally I just was like, Arden, I got to ask you, like, are these magnesium oxides working? And she goes, oh yeah, I went to the bathroom days ago. I just didn't want to tell you. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyway. So that's it. Now, she does not even do it all the time anymore. It got her through like a situation. Now, I still so then I watch her and I'm like, God, I have a lot of these issues. And so I was like, let me try the digestive enzyme. Now, all of a sudden, I could go to restaurants I couldn't go to before or something like that. Like, I started testing them. I started going places. I said to Kelly, I'm like, what's that restaurant that always makes me sick to my stomach? And she said, I don't want to say the name of it. And I was like, okay. I'm like, let's go there today. And I was like, I'm going to take 2 of these digestive enzymes and I'm going to eat. And no kidding. Like, I didn't get nauseous. My stomach didn't like flip over, like anything like that. And then I had to add the magnesium oxide as well. Now, moving forward, it got to a weird place where without the magnesium oxide, I wasn't going to the bathroom, but I also wasn't having like formed bowel movements anymore. Like, it was and I was happy to be going and being on a cycle. And I felt like everything was better. I had this like gut guy come on the podcast and he just talked to me for it's not out yet. And he talked to me for like 45 minutes and I'm still waiting for more testing, but he listened to everything I said. And then he was like, oh yeah, slippery elm bark. And I was like, and I'm like, what now? so
I'm writing this down.
Yeah, no kidding. So he goes, I'd like you to try slippery elm bark. Is that right? Let me make sure that's right. I take it every day and now I don't know what the hell it's called. So no, that's it. Slippery elm bark. And I just buy a very like inexpensive one on Amazon. I think they're like 4,000 milligram. Let me find it for you so I make sure I tell you the right goddamn thing. Hold on a second. Let me go to my recent orders and type in elm. That should bring it up pretty easily. Yeah. I buy something from Horbach, HORBAACH, slippery elm bark, 4,000 milligrams per serving, 200 capsules, $9. Right. So listen, Peggy, wait to hear this. So I was at the situation now where I was not rushing to the bathroom. I could hold my bowel movement until I wanted to go, which is a thing I used to hear people talk about. And I was like, whoa, magical.
How do you do that? Right.
And I could do that, even though, like I said, my eliminations were not like in a way that I was like, oh, this seems solid and good. But I was like happy because no pain, my digestion was working, I was absorbing my nutrients. This one side effect, I thought, oh, I guess this is what I'm going to deal with. I talked to the guy, I ordered the slippery elm bark. I pop 2 of them in with my next meal. I take them when I eat. I don't know how to take them yet. I don't know if it's 2 or if it's 1. Like, it's not a kind of thing where they tell you. 2 days later, I just had a solid bowel movement. And I was like, what in the hell just happened? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it just apparently just kind of coats your insides. I don't understand why that would matter. He also moved me, and this was specific to me, so I wouldn't want anyone else to do this. But when I said I had some reflux still, he moved me to an enzyme, a digestive enzyme that has HCl in it, which is hydrochloric acid, I think. So I grabbed Thorn, Betatyne, HCl, and Pepsin, digestive enzymes for protein breakdown and absorption, 225 capsules. I put on a little weight, a couple of pounds, but not, I don't think in an unhealthy way. I think I'm just going to the bathroom on a more reasonable, I think I'm actually retaining some nutrients. So I'm having to rejigger how I eat and everything like that to fit. But anyway, he then sent me a urine test, which I have to actually do today. And then I'll get the results back from that. Then we're going to sit down and talk again. Then the episode will come out. So,
I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah.
Do they do those, have anything for kids? Because here I am. I'm like, God, my kid could use that too. You know, like. I
just talked to the guy. He sent me, I mean, it's a thing I'm paying for. Like, you know, it's like a $300 test. I'm going to pee in a jar and mail it somewhere. It was like, it's for the podcast. It's for me too, but it's for the podcast. So I can probably write it off on my taxes next year.
Yeah, there you go.
But nevertheless, I'm just really interested to learn more. And here's the crazy thing. And this I'm really sorry for, because I definitely don't think I've ever said this on here, but my son has a similar digestive system to me. And I had been like, you know, doing all the, like, he was in the same spot, because I was like, hey, try this, try that. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And like, on and on, he'd be like, none of this stuff is helping me. And I'm like, okay. But I just sent him a text one day and I said, Cole, I'm like, just try this slippery elm bark. I said, just one time, just try it for a day. And I'll tell you what, man, he went off for the weekend, last weekend, and I watched him go in the kitchen and grab that thing and take it with him.
Wow.
So I was pretty excited.
So you know it's working. He's not going to tell you maybe, but he's going to show you, right?
Come right out and said it, but
because it's weird. Like, Dad,
Yeah. He's in his 20s. He ain't looking for that conversation, I don't think. But he and I are both going to the doctor next week, not the gut guy, but our actual doctor, just for our yearly checkup. So we're going to be discussing all that with her. But anyway, so what happened for your son? Tell me how it worked for him.
That's amazing. So I use the brand that Arden had used. So the pure encapsulation. They do have a children's line, which, by the way, continues to be out of stock. And I blame you and the Juicebox Podcast, because every time I get on a subscription, I'll get 2, and then they're like, sorry, we're out. What the heck? They were out for like 6 months. I just really like, I don't know if you're... They need to be a sponsor. I don't know if you're accustomed to the term gird your loins, but I just tensed up when I said the name of that slippery elm bark out loud, because I was like, I can't not get that. Oh my God, I know. Yeah, you say it out loud and it's going to disappear. That's what's happening to me right now. So, yeah, go ahead. But what did it do for him? Oh, God, changed his life. So, and now he asks for it. Yeah. And if he doesn't take it before he eats, like if we're out and about, he's like, Mom, my stomach hurts. I didn't. And I said, I'll say, oh, shoot, I forgot the digestive enzyme. So what it did is his stomach doesn't hurt anymore. He would get severe stomach pain. Like I would have to pick him up from daycare sometimes before type 1 diagnosis. And I'd give him, because I thought it was reflux. Like, here you go, buddy. You know, now it's like he can eat whatever he wants within reason, right? And he doesn't get stomach pain. He doesn't vomit. He doesn't have gas. He's like digesting his food in the way that his body is supposed to be doing. On top of that, I did also start doing, because I noticed I just the digestive enzymes first, and it was helping with not having stomach pain, but he wasn't pooping, exactly like you said. And instead of doing Miralax, like the pediatrician said, because that was making him miserable, I'm doing chewable calm magnesium for him at night. Working. He has a bowel movement every single day.
The Calm is a nice product.
It is a nice product.
Yeah.
It's easy, and it tastes good. He's not like, ew, this is gross, because I've tried other ones and he's like, I am not. And he can't do capsules yet, right? He's only 9.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I've tried, because when the chewable digestive enzymes was out, I purchased the capsules, even though it's not recommended for children. So,
right. But he couldn't get it down.
We tried over and over and over and over again. We practiced with other things, and it gets like stuck in his. It's probably just. I might try again. It's been a while.
Yeah, I have to tell you, it's really interesting. And I'd like to read this to people. I just went to ChatGPT and I said, "What is the pancreas's role in digestion?" ChatGPT says the pancreas plays a crucial role in digestion by producing enzymes that help break down food in the small intestines. These enzymes include pancreatic amylase, which breaks down carbohydrates into sugar. Pancreatic lipase breaks down fats into fatty acid and glycerol. And pancreatic protease breaks down proteins into amino acids. These enzymes are released into the small intestine to help with the digestion of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, allowing the body to absorb essential nutrients. And I say this thing out loud on my Facebook group, and holy hell, a firestorm of people who were like, my stomach has been hurting for 20 years. Like, I got notes from people that said, hey, my stomach hurt. One lady's like sticks in my head. My stomach has hurt for 35 years. It doesn't hurt today. Thank you. That's all it said. And I was oh my God, like, back to your original point of like getting all this information, like, but no one ever just says to you, hey, if your stomach hurts, try a digestive enzyme in the endo's office. Crazy.
Yeah. What he did was he referred me back to the gastroenterologist.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you've seen this person. Why don't you go back to her and talk to her? So we did. And she did some stool testing and whatever and everything, like pancreas, because it was testing. I told her we were taking
the enzyme.
What was it?
No.
The enzymes, right? But he wasn't it was because of the pooping. That's why we went back.
I've heard you have gastroparesis, you have celiac. Mm-hmm. As soon as your stomach hurts, they go celiac, just like that. Right. Mm-hmm. Not to say you couldn't, but like bang, right to that. And then they do the testing and you go, I don't have any markers for celiac. And they go, oh, silent celiac. And you go, okay. And, I'm like, all right. And then it's gastroparesis. Like, how many people are running around now think they have gastroparesis that don't have it? I have no idea. I'm sure many of you do, but that, again, not the point. The point is that this is a simple over-the-counter thing you can try, and you'll know if it works fairly quickly. So
very quickly. And
it's not going to hurt you if you didn't need it. Like, so, and the other thing, they'll say, oh, you got to get probiotics. Got to have probiotics. You know how many probiotics Arden took? Didn't do anything. I took them. She took them. I forced them on my son. He took them. Dad, nothing changed.
Same.
Yeah. Try this. Try that.
Exact same.
Yeah. So who cares, like, if it's pancreas related because you have type 1 diabetes, or if it's just how you're built or whatever, like, such a simple fix. I mean, fantastic.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was really angry at the medical community. Like, how do you not teach people these things and offer solutions rather than put your hands up in the air like, oh, the tests say nothing. So
why does the vaguely Russian Eastern Bloc witch know and you don't know? Like, I mean, seriously. Yeah. I mean, she's, by the way, a lovely woman, just has a great accent. I don't understand. Like, I really don't. And the other thing is that it's in this health food store that when you get in there smells weird and everybody's like in Birkenstocks and it's strange and everything. And like, I'm not, listen, if you got Birkenstocks, it's fine with me, but I'm trying to paint a picture. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's a real kind of like,
smells like incense.
It's a hippie place. And if you walked in there off the street, never having any intersection with this idea, you're going to walk in and go, okay, what is this?
Exactly.
Right. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not taking bee pollen. I don't know what, and I don't know why I just said bee pollen. It just seemed like something someone would take if they went in there. It's crazy that a mainstream doctor wouldn't say, hey, your pancreas is also in charge of so much about digestion.
that's the thing is when he was first diagnosed, the only information I was taught and thought for a long period of time was that the pancreas produced only insulin.
You didn't even know what else it did. Yeah.
I didn't know what else it did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm still learning. Like, there's so many things. It's a lot to learn, and I know they can only tell us so much. But based on what I've talked to other moms and other families about, and online, how much this is impacting people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting the same message as I am. I'm really lucky that I learned about it so quickly. And I can't tell people enough. Even if I have friends that have kids that are having stomach issues or constipation or whatever that are not type 1, I'm like, you literally need to buy digestive enzymes and magnesium. Like, I don't care what your doctor said
Like
about
it's
Miralax.
the 60s and you're handing out Quaaludes to people.
Seriously.
You're like, hey.
For real. Golly. And maybe it works for some people. I'm not saying, I don't want to say anything bad about it.
No, it's not magic.
But
if you have listened, you might have a lot of different issues that are not going to be touched by this. But if this is your issue, you will know quickly. Hey, ChatGPT, the human pancreas. I asked it, what are the functions of the human pancreas? The human pancreas has both endocrine and exocrine functions. Endocrine functions, the pancreas contains clusters of cells called the islets of Langerhans, which produce hormones that regulate blood sugar levels. The main hormone produced by the islets are the insulin and glucagon. Insulin helps lower blood sugar levels by promoting the uptake of glucose into cells, while glucagon raises blood sugar levels by stimulating the liver to release stored glucose. Now, number 2, exocrine function. The pancreas produces digestive enzymes that are released into small intestines to help break down carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in food. These enzymes include amylase for carbohydrates, lipase for fats, and various for proteins. Dysfunction of the pancreas can lead to conditions such as diabetes mellitus and pancreatic insufficiency. So, bada bing. It's not possible a doctor doesn't know that, especially an endocrinologist. And I can't understand how you could stand in front of them and say, my stomach hurts for 35 years. And they go, oh, you have celiac. No, I don't. Oh, you have this. No, I don't. Oh, I guess your stomach hurts. That's it. This is not the next step. Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
I know. It's so frustrating. And I'm glad that, we're talking about it, because I think that's what's missing is, this piece. It's not just about the insulin and glucagon. It's all the other things. And it's crazy. Honestly, and it can impact growth. It can impact, because my son is on the smaller side.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to find answers with that too. And they keep telling me, and I'm still not convinced that there isn't something else going on, but that's another story. He's on the growth curve. And it's like, okay, I understand that, but he's like significantly smaller than other children.
Well, let me say this then. What's his TSH?
What is that?
It's the thyroid stimulating hormone. They should test his thyroid.
Oh, they have. I don't know the number, but it's within normal range.
So don't worry about the normal range. Figure out the number, okay?
Okay.
And let's say, I guess they're going to tell you the normal range is somewhere between, I don't know what the low range is, but then the high range is up to 10. Hold on a second. Normal range for TSH in adults is typically between 0.4 and 4. Okay. So what I'll tell you, based on conversations I've had and experiences I've had personally, is that when you start getting over 2 and you have symptoms, you should probably treat the symptoms with the medication. Mm-hmm. And then, so I don't know what his is. I might be, completely off, but I'll share this with you, that Arden was the smallest kid in her school. I mean, the teeniest person. Okay.
Yeah.
I forget how old she was when we finally figured out she had thyroid. We pushed treatment very quickly because my wife had it and they wouldn't treat her and it caused her a lot of problems. We got her onto Synthroid really quickly. And today, Arden's going to be 20 in a couple of months. Arden's 5'7". Wow. She's 5'7". Wow. The best way I can explain this to you is that a handful of years ago, after having played softball for this guy as a coach for 6 or 7 years, Arden saw this man again when she was like 16. And my wife bumped into him in a store. They were talking. Arden was around the corner at a different aisle. And Arden came back, stood behind my wife because my wife was engaged in a conversation, kind of politely stood behind her for a while. And when the conversation died down, the gentleman asked my wife, "Who is this you're with?"
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did not know it was Arden.
Mm.
And that's how much like different she was. Like she was like 5'1", weighed nothing, was so skinny. And now today she's a good weight and she's 5'7".
5'7".
And
wow.
I think it's because we gave her the.
Wow.
I think it's because she got that. So.
Yeah, he's in like the 13th percentile for height and 20th, maybe not even 20th for weight. Weight and height are really on the low end.
Does he have any of the hypothyroid symptoms? Jeez. Hair loss, fatigue, weakness, sensitivity.
He did a diagnosis. I mean, all that sounds like type 1 diabetes to me.
Sensitivity to cold, dry skin, dry hair, constipation, muscle weakness, depression, anxiety, memory problems, puffy face, elevated cholesterol. These are all like
memory problems, cholesterol. Memory, I keep on saying it's diabetes related, but maybe it's thyroid. Yeah.
Does he have trouble? Does he not get rested after he sleeps?
Sometimes.
That's one of them. That's a big one. I mean,
he slept for 11 hours last night and was grumpy this morning, like he hadn't slept a full night.
Yeah. So there's part of me that thinks you go find out what his TSH is, and you're going to see it's like 3. Okay. It's like 3.5 or something. So it looked green on the thing. On the chart. But I'm telling you, if it's over 2 something, I forget exactly. I have a great episode about it with Dr. Benito. I can give you the
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, you can listen through it. Anyway, how else? Like, what else is going on with diabetes? Like, what have you guys figured out? How's it going? All that stuff.
Well, I mean, it's going, right? I mean, we're, like I said earlier, we're a year into this. It's different every day. He's on the Omnipod 5 and the G7. He started with the G7, and so I'm in manual mode. I'm saying I'm in manual mode because I do all the work.
That's fine.
Right? And I'm having a lot of problems. Again, he is, but I am with higher numbers than I would like, because I don't know if it's tunneling. Nico, hi Nico, was the one who told me about tunneling on Facebook. And so I've been trying all the things for tunneling, because it's like, there is no reason for his numbers to be, I shouldn't say no reason, but it's just like there's so many factors, right? But that is the one that I feel like keeps happening, because his ratios and insulin sensitivity factor and all the things are working for like 24 hours, and then it stops working, and it's driving me crazy. So, and giving him more and more and more and more on the app isn't working. So I'm changing out his pod earlier, and I've tried skin tack, I've tried underlays, I've tried overlays, I called Omnipod and was like, help, like this keeps happening to my kid,
right?
And I'll take it off, and it's not usually a cannula. I've been cannula once, and they recommended the liquid just around the triangle part. So that's the last thing I'm going to try. And then I just feel like I need to try a different pump or something. It's driving me nuts.
So it's pulling, you think it's pulling away? Or do you think it's
so? He's very active.
Yeah.
He fiddles with it, if you know what I mean. It'll be on his arm, and he'll be watching TV and be like, or it's on his stomach, and he's, stop touching your pod, So it moves a lot, and he's very active. He's running around. He plays soccer, and I think it's just not staying put. And it doesn't, I tried a grip shield. I've tried all the things.
So he's
and if I don't put it right on the right way, it just kind of wheels.
Right. So he's lean and thin too.
Yes, very lean.
So you don't have a lot of like flat, bigger spaces to put it on.
I don't.
It doesn't work better anywhere on his leg.
Stomach. He won't do the leg. Ooh. We did the leg once. We had to take it off. He just screamed and screamed. It was so painful.
It hurt. The site hurt. Okay. You get into the muscle maybe.
I must have. That was in the beginning of when we started, which I think we started in like August.
Has he put weight on since then?
Yes, not a lot, but the doctor's pleased.
Yeah. Well, you could try the leg again, because it sounds like on the stomach, because there's more surface area, it's not flexing as much. So you're probably seeing it like rock on arms is what I'm guessing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you turn it on the stomach, like you could have the cannula facing the belly button, then the next time have it face away. And then so you get like 4 different sites at least on either side of the navel.
Yeah. And I do the stomach as much as possible, but then, he gets adhesive reactions and inflammation where the cannula goes in. So it's like a hard, bumpy thing. And so it's really painful.
Yeah.
So he'll ask, can we leave my stomach alone for a little while?
Okay. I mean, listen, do you think he would use a tube pump?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to keep, experimenting. I mean, the tube pumps is, I don't know why I'm so against it. It's so convenient. This Omnipod is so convenient. It's easy now we're a year into this and he actually does a lot of it now because I want to teach him how to do stuff. Obviously we can fill it, change it. I mean, in less than 2 minutes,
it's quick,
and boom, we're out the door. It's so quick and it's easy. So
I don't know how I would sell a tube pump to Arden. I don't think she'd bite, honestly.
I don't think he would either.
Yeah.
So I think so.
It's tough. I think she just loves the form factor of it too much. Oh, before I forget, Dr. Benito is in episode 413. It's called Thyroid Disease Explained. And she is just a font of information. And
good, thank you.
Yeah. So if you really want to understand thyroid, listen to that one.
I do.
And then go check the tests and see. Because no kidding, it could not be this at all. But there's a world where I've been told Arden's TSH was 6 and they said, we don't treat it at this number. At 6. She had every symptom. And they're like, we don't. Wow. I had to force them to do it.
Wow.
I had to absolutely force them to do it. And then early on, we figured out Arden's uptake is not great. So she has to take a T3 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we had it right. Then she had a problem and they blamed the T3 when it wasn't the T3. So then she had to live another year exhausted until we finally went through so many things till we got back to them going, oh yeah, it's probably the T3. And then eventually I got her to Dr. Benito, actually, who manages.
Oh, that's great.
She manages my Arden's, Cole's, and my wife's thyroids.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
She's fantastic. Good. So
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's another thing to talk to, to remind people that are listening today, keep advocating for yourself. If something doesn't seem right about yourself or your kids, just keep advocating for yourself. Trust your gut.
Yeah.
We're taught, I don't know if it's worldwide or if it's an American thing. We're taught to trust the medical people without questioning them.
Yeah.
Right? I was that person. And I still believe they are the experts, right? I want to go to the experts. They know their stuff. But if something doesn't sit with you and something doesn't feel right, this doesn't seem like the right thing, keep asking. Yeah. Keep doing research. Talk to other moms, talk to other dads, talk to other people that are dealing with the same thing, because we're living this day to day. Yes, they got their medical degrees, but they're not living this day to day, or most of them aren't, right? Some are T1D, but I don't know. Just keep asking. You don't have to just blindly trust what people are saying. You're in charge of your health. You're in charge of your kids' health, and just keep looking for the answers because it's out there.
Yeah. I think too, it's important to remember simple things. Your stomach's not supposed to hurt. You're not supposed to be exhausted all the time. You can come up with reasons why. Oh, I have a young child, or that's all fine. But there are plenty of people with young kids that are not exhausted. And there are plenty of people who eat really crappy food and their stomach doesn't hurt. And they eat good food and their stomach doesn't hurt, and everywhere in between. You are not supposed to be agitated all the time. You're not supposed to be anxious all the time. There's reasons why thyroid, for example, could help you with those things. My son's first symptom with hypothyroidism was his personality changed. And my wife's did too. Thinking back all the way back to when I actually joked with the doctor at one time. I was like, look, I now have a hole dug in the backyard in case I have to kill this lady. She was a fucking problem. You know what I mean?
God.
And then that thyroid medication helped her with that. Wow. Your hair's not supposed to fall out.
Right.
If it does, don't make up an excuse for it. Just trust me, it's not supposed to fall out. Your blood sugar is not supposed to be 60 and then 350 and then 60 and then 300. That's not just diabetes. Like these are things that there are quantifiable, knowable solutions to.
Right.
And to have, if a doctor looks you in the face and goes, I don't know, then they're the wrong doctor. And
exactly.
You got to dig in more. And, I just told somebody last night, I did an Ask Me Anything on Facebook last night. So sometimes when I'm working, I sit at two keyboards. I work at this one and then I answer questions on that one. And this one person said, like, I'm so afraid for the doctor to like yell at me about like changing insulin. And I didn't know another answer. I just said, it's time to pull up your big girl pants and get in the fight. Like this is what this is. Like it just is. If you're not adjusting your insulin and you have type 1 diabetes, I don't know how I don't understand. Insulin needs adjustment.
I think it goes, I hear that a lot too. And I think, and I do get intimidated by my endo. I mean, it sort of feels like the person that like is giving my child life-saving hormone. Like, I don't want to piss him off. Right. But I'm not taking shit. Right. Like a lot of times, and I see this on Facebook too, he'll say stuff and I'm like, okay, thank you. Right. Like, can I have my prescription? I'm going to go home and do what I need to do. I mean, so it's not about, again, we're taught they're the experts. We're supposed to do what they say. And within reason, we listen to what they say, but you're living every day. You get to go home and make your own decisions. Yeah. You don't have to follow it if it's not working. If it's not working and they're not going to be supportive, figure it out.
Yeah, there's a middle ground between blindly listen. There is
a middle ground.
There's blindly listen and if everything's great, then who cares? Then right on. But if you're seeing problems, you can't skip over maybe the information I'm getting isn't good. That's just the first step. And people skip right over that part. And then you end up looking, around blind corners forever for an answer to something. And the answer's right in front of you. You're just not paying attention to it. I've talked to people privately and on here running around with TSHs in the 8s. They clearly have hypothyroidism. Doctors will not give them medication. That's it. And they're like, well, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, how do you not know what to do? Go find another doctor.
Right.
And don't just switch and then get in there and hope. Call another office and say, look, here's my situation. My doctor is resistant. If I switch to you, will you help me with this? Like, make them tell you the way they handle these things before you go through the whole process of leaving a doctor and going to another one. Because you don't want to. I've heard people switching, get to the next doctor, get the same crappy answer again, and then they just it takes the ass out of them, and they don't have the energy for it anymore. You know what I mean?
I was just gonna say, there's a lot of emotional energy that goes into making a doctor's appointment, finding a good doctor. So I get why people don't do it immediately. Take a break, and then reevaluate. You don't have to do everything all at once, but there's no excuse for not doing it, in my opinion.
I'm just telling you, if you were having a heart attack and you ran to an emergency room, you said, I'm having a heart attack, and they said, we don't believe you, I don't think you would just sit on the floor and die. I think you would try to get to a different emergency room. And I don't see this as much different. But that's that weariness in the middle. Listen, last night I went grocery shopping with my wife. She opened up the freezer section to grab a box, and the box had a big dent in the top of it. I saw her look at the box and think, I don't want the dented box. I'm going to get the one behind it. She pulled it forward. The next box was dented. And even though the third box wasn't, she gave up and took the second dented box.
Oh, wow. Isn't that?
It was so interesting. She was like, I don't want the dented box, but not bad enough to go through two of these to get to the third one. And then she grabbed it. Now, later I made fun of her. And she said, I didn't notice that the third box wasn't dented. I was like, why didn't you look? Like, this was important to you. Like, in this little microcosmos, she had decided no dented box. But then once it got a little hard, she's like, f it. And she took a dented box. And So when that's the world, I don't know how it's going to be hard to fight through bad doctors and like to pick through the boxes till you get the right one. But you have to. So true. Like you have to. It's your health or somebody else's health.
Right.
And take it from me, a person who feels 1,000,000% better today than I did 12 months ago. It's very, very worth it. Very, very worth it.
It's super worth it. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's totally worth it. Yeah.
Well, Peggy, this has been really wonderful, but I feel like we've covered everything, so I don't want to drag you through. Are you comfortable that we got to everything?
Yeah, I think so.
Great,
yeah.
Great. Oh, that's excellent. I really appreciate you doing this. Just, I want to make sure we didn't miss anything. Nothing else you want to talk about?
No, I just wanted to make sure people knew about the digestive enzymes, the magnesium. I got to tell my story about my son and meeting you, and
very nice.
Really, this digestive enzymes. Really helped my kids.
And if you can't poop, magnesium oxide. Very important.
Not citrate.
Because there's 1,000 different kinds of magnesium. There's glycinate, citrate, blah, 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 magnesium oxide. Yeah. And that should make you poop.
The oxide.
Yeah. If you ain't pooping on that, I don't know. Something happened. All right. Well, thank you.
Are you going to be touched by type 1 in Florida again this year?
Well, I don't think I'm supposed to tell you the date of it, but I definitely will be there. And I got a save the date email already. So
we got the email as like participants. It just doesn't say who's coming.
No. Yeah. I don't think, they don't want to say in case it falls through. Like, because people have problems, they get sick sometimes, stuff like that when they're going to come and speak. But
sure.
Yeah, no, I already got to save the date. I love that trip. I think it's great. I think they do such a wonderful job. Honestly.
They really do.
And it's not people are going to be like, they advertise on the show, but that's not why they buy an ad on the show. They buy an ad on the show because it gets the word out. I mean, because people from Arkansas go to their thing and they find out about it on
Midwest.
the podcast.
I'm from the Midwest. Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend Marissa is from Arkansas. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just a fantastic organization. They help people with type 1. They put a great event on once a year in a beautiful hotel. Like,
it was beautiful.
Yeah. Really just wonderfully done. I'll say, with deference to a lot of lovely people that I've met locally that have set up JDRF events, it's the best diabetes event I've ever been to. So.
Oh, wow. It was my first one. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, you picked the right
I've had JDRF events, but it's worth another trip down to Florida. We're planning on it.
Beautiful time. All right. Peggy, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott.
Hold on one second.
Great to talk to you.
You too. A huge thanks to Omnipod. Not just my longest sponsor, but my first one. Omnipod.com/juicebox. If you love the podcast and you love tubeless insulin pumps, this link is for you. Omnipod.com/juicebox. I was looking for a way that we could all get nice and tan and meet each other and spend some time talking about diabetes. How are we going to do that? On a juice cruise. Juice Cruise 2025 departs Galveston, Texas on Monday, June 23rd, 2025. It's a 5-night trip through the Western Caribbean, visiting, of course, Galveston, Costa Maya, and Cozumel. Why do we need to be there? Because during the days at sea, we're going to be holding conferences. You can get involved in these talks around type 1 diabetes, and they're going to be Q&As. Plenty of time for everyone to get to talk, ask their questions, and get their questions answered. So if you're looking for a nice adult or family vacation, you want to meet your favorite podcast host, but you can't figure out where Jason Bateman lives, so you'll settle for me. If you want to talk about diabetes, or you know what? Maybe you want to meet some people living with type 1, or just get a tan with a bunch of cool people. You can do that on Juice Cruise 2025. Space is limited. Head now to juiceboxpodcast.com and click on that banner. You can find out all about the different cabins that are available to you and register today. Links in the show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com. I hope to see you on board. I want to thank you so much for listening and remind you, please subscribe and follow to the podcast wherever you're listening right now. If it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other audio app, go hit follow or subscribe, whichever your app allows for, and set up those downloads so you never miss an episode, especially in Apple Podcasts. Go into your settings and choose download all new episodes. Whether you have a podcast or a band, Rob at Wrong Way Recording can help you. WrongWayRecording.com. If you're newly diagnosed, check out the Bold Beginnings series. Find it at juiceboxpodcast.com up in the menu, in the featured tab of the private Facebook group, or go into the audio app you're listening in right now and search for Juicebox Podcast Bold Beginnings. Juicebox is one word, Juicebox Podcast Bold Beginnings. This series is perfect for newly diagnosed people.